Hey, top Penalized Math Industry, and we're going to be learning about the different types of slopes. So, in the past video, we have been taking a look at equations like y equals mx plus b. And not only we've been learning about that, we've been also learning how to graph a slope and how to put points on a graph. But there are 4 different types of slopes that we're going to use and learn about. So, here is our first slope. What do you think this slope is called? And what type of slope is it? Well, what we can see is it's a slope that's going from the left to the right. And it's also going straight up in a straight line. The kind of slope this is called a positive slope. Positive slopes are the most common slopes that you will see in this unit. And if you try to use the equation y equals mx plus b, what you'll notice about a positive slope is your slope, or the letter m, is always going to be a positive number, like 3, which is lucky, or 4, which is not so lucky, or 7, 8, 10, 1. Here's an example of a positive slope. We can write the equation y equals 3x plus 7. 3x is going to be a positive slope. Here's what the equation looks like. The clip that you saw was an example of a positive slope, and it was representing this equation y equals 3x plus 7. Let's see an example from Super Mario Maker, and we'll also see what a positive slope is. The clip that you saw was an example of a positive slope, and it was representing this equation y equals 3x plus 7. Let's see an example from Super Mario Maker, and we'll also see what a positive slope is. Let's learn about another type of slope. So, we have another slope shown right here. But instead of the slope going up, just like the positive one, what do you think this one is called? Type in the comments below. What kind of slope is this? Yes, it is called a negative slope. The reason why we call it a negative slope is because slopes will always have to face in the right direction, because it's right. And number 2, with a negative slope, is a slope that's going way down. You will usually see these kind of slopes when you see something that's decreasing in a given amount of time on a graph. When you see y equals mx plus b incorporated into a negative slope, what you'll notice right away is that your slope, or the letter m, will become a negative number, like -3, -1, -10, and so on. Type in the comments below what you think which negative number should be put in here. Well, let's show an example slope. We have the slope, or y-intercept, y equals negative 7x plus 2. So pretty much, this is going to show a slope that's going way down. This is what the slope looks like. That equation that was shown to us and that slope was an example of a line on a graph going way down. Here's an example in Super Mario Maker of a negative slope. Let's move on to our next type of slope. So, it looks like here's a graph, but a straight line this time. This is still called a slope because it's heading in the right direction. And yes, this is called a zero slope. Technically, it is a slope, but it's not a slope where it goes up or goes down. It's a steady slope. So pretty much, you're walking on flat land. It is very difficult to understand a zero slope right away with your slope-intercept form. So instead, we're going to have to use a table for this. When you're using zero slope, the number that you get for y is going to be the exact same number. So let's say right here is going to be number 5. Anything that you insert will become a 5 no matter what. 5, 5, 5, 5. And let's insert some points. Let's say 1, 5. 4, 5. Negative 4, 5. So no matter what you insert in for x, it will still become 5 because instead of y-intercept form, what you're going to get is y equals 5. There's not really a slope, but this is still called a slope. When you have a zero slope and you have a slope or the letter m as 0 divided by 9, for example, it's going to be a zero slope because it's going to stay flat at 9. And number 2, when you have 0 divided by 9 on a calculator, it will stay 0 because nothing divided by a number is going to stay nothing. So when you have a slope of 0 divided by 9, for example, you can understand quickly it's a zero slope. Whenever you insert a number like 2 in for x, it won't work because the equation is saying everything must be 5. Literally, everything must be 5. So here's an example of y equals 5 on a graph. That can be an example where everything on a zero slope must be that number for y. And here's an example in Super Mario Maker of a zero slope. Let's move on to our last slope of the day, which doesn't really seem like a slope, because when you see a line that goes up and down, it doesn't seem like a slope. What do you think this slope is called? Yes, this slope is actually not a slope. It's called undefined. Yes, this slope is actually not a slope because it's called undefined. You can't really define this slope because right now it's not touching the y-axis. And number 2, it's only touching the x-axis. Just like the one when we did zero slope, you can't really use y equals mx plus b to find the slope right away. In that case, that means that this is going to be x equals a number. Pretty much because it's not touching the y-axis. And if you even try to put it in a ratio table, everything that you insert in for x will always become that number. And usually not, but this time y gets to be creative. You can insert anything for y, like -1, 3, -5, 6, and when you have different numbers for y, but the same numbers for x, it'll still be in the 2 column in for x. And here's -1, here's 3, here's -5, and here's +6. You can't really go anywhere but up and down. So that's why it's called undefined. Another way you can see if it's undefined is if you get a slope or the letter m as 9 divided by 0, for example. When you divide anything by 0, it's not actually a good idea because if you try it on a calculator, you'll get an error. And number 2, dividing by 0 is actually undefined. No mathematician or math teacher has ever figured out why you can't divide by 0. Here's an example of an undefined slope on a graph. And here's an example in Super Mario Maker where Mario starts falling in an undefined slope. That is an example of an undefined slope, something that's going up or down, but not going diagonally. We have now focused on all of the different types of slopes. We understood and learned about undefined slopes, zero slopes, positive slopes, and negative slopes. I hope this video has helped you. Thank you for watching Tao Ping Li's Math Industry. Like and subscribe.